Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode. Here we are talking about the trending topic of late is ethical non-monogamy, right? So,
Okay.
ethical non-monogamy is trending largely in part from Duo
Yes.
and Kofi. I don't know what Kofi last name is. Fine as Kofi, Ralph Angel from Green Queen Sugar, but
Oh,
I don't know what Kofi.
he practices ethical non-monogamy.
Yes. So on the TV
Oh,
show Harlem, so he's on Harlem, and so
yes.
his character on Harlem, with he was dating Quinn, and he was like he's ethical non-monogamous. So he had a partner that lived in another city because on the show he is a football player, I believe, and
Okay.
professional football player, and so he had a girlfriend, and he has I want to say he has kids or maybe not, but he has a girlfriend.
Mm,
And so when he was dating
okay.
Quinn, she found out later that he was ethical non-monogamous. And so after he did the interview while the show was airing, and he said in real life that's what he practices. And he was like,
Wow.
and so his explanation I kind of understood because he was saying, how um, since he's been since he's gained some fame over the years, his
Yeah.
life has changed, right? I'm sure he has pussy in abundance, and he has all these people throwing themselves at him, and he was just like, for him, he doesn't feel like monogamy is his thing, or he wants to do it, and he wants everybody to he rather just tell people up front. Now, granted, right? Some people think ethical non-monogamy is a keyword for hoe, right?
Yes.
It means hoe. It means I'm right? And so some people think it
Yeah.
is. Now, I'm not saying that it's not, right, for some people. But that's
Yeah.
not the case for everybody. So today we have Reba Thomas here. Reba is a sex expert,
Mhm.
sexologist, sex educator, all the things located in DC. And Reba herself practices ethical non-monogamy, as do I.
I do.
And then we're going to talk about Reba, like, so what is ethical non-monogamy? Is it ethical whoring? Is it not? Uh, um, what is it? Why do people want to practice it? Because a lot of times, because we're black, right, and we
Yeah.
deal with black
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
and black women. Sometimes I've heard this over and over again with women, and they'll say, "Well, if I want to do all that, why should I be in a relationship?" Right? If I'm gonna have multiple people, why be in a relationship? Because I want to build something, right, with someone. So
Well, let's answer that question, right? Like, why, if I'm going to be with all these people, why be in a relationship? And the thing is, if you're being with all of these people, you're in some sort of relationship with all of these people, right? And so this idea that we're not in a relationship until we've locked it down, nailed it down, married it, whatever it is, right, is kind of unrealistic, because whether you're friends with benefits or you're walking down the aisle together, you have some sort of relationship. So
you do.
let's not discount that.
So let's back it up. So what is ethical non-monogamy? Like, what is like a broad general term?
So ethical non-monogamy is the practice of anything outside of non-monogamy, but from an ethical perspective. And typically those ethics involve consent and communication and a knowledge on all parts and all parties that they're consenting and participating in this alternate form of relationship structure that's outside of monogamy, right? So monogamy is when one person is with another person and they are together, and that's it. There's nobody else, and there's a lot of strict rules that we find ourselves in monogamy. Often, one problem that I've found with monogamy is the idea that like one person is meant to be your end all, be all, friend, lover, end of time person, and that's a lot of pressure to me, right? To put on one person. So, so I practice ethical non-monogamy so that I have the ability to form genuine connections, but also, and the freedom, right? But also, I am tending and showing up in these relationships very thoughtfully and very presently because I give each one of them value, right? I'm not just like, it's not like, okay, we're just out here having sex with everybody, right? Like every relationship that I show up in as an ethically non-monogamous person has value in my life, or else I'm not in it. Like, do you know how much time it takes to schedule date nights and phone calls and conversations with a whole bunch of different people? Like, I'm still trying to figure out how Neo's doing it. I can only do two. Like, I can really only do two. It's too much.
So let me say, you're married, correct?
Yes, I'm married.
Okay, so I just want to throw that out there because a lot of people tend to think that because I wrote an article about ethical non-monogamy, and in some of in the comments, some people were like, "Oh, well, all that is just being single," and people are doing this until they get partnered or married. But no, being an ethical non-monogamous is a lifestyle, and people continue to do that once they're married.
Yes.
And so, without getting too much into your business, right? Can you tell us like how it works within a marriage for people who think that married people don't do this?
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways that this works in a marriage, right? Because you have, let's look at it as a primary partner, right? My husband and I, we live together. We're nesting partners. We have a family together. And so in my practice of ethical non-monogamy, we are, as although we're trying to like minimize or mitigate some of the problems around it, but we are what's called hierarchical polyamory. Like we practice hierarchical polyamory. So our marriage is the primary relationship that we're in, and then we have other relationships outside of that, right? And one of the things that I think people who practice this style of polyamory come to have difficulty with is like, okay, you have this primary partner, but what happens when you have another partner that's outside of your primary relationship that starts to kind of become important, like primary status, right? And so these are the kinds of conversations and communication that you have to have for this to be healthy and for it to continue to work.
Is poly the only form of ethical non-monogamy? Because when you say ethical
Absolutely not.
non-monogamy, yeah, people automatically say, "Oh, it's poly," and that's not. So, what are some other types?
Well, there's so many types of ethical non-monogamy, from solo poly to the type of hierarchical poly that we, practice, to egalitarian poly, to, sometimes there are people who are monogamish, right? Who practice a form of ethical non-monogamy that is closer to monogamy, but has some other, some non-monogamish ideals and tenets, right? You just wrote an article really recently about ethical non-monogamy with a bunch of different ethical non-monogamy styles in it, and I loved the way that you described them all, because I think people look at, like you said, I think people look at ethical non-monogamy as polyamory, right? That's it. Either you're in an open relationship, and even all polyamory isn't open relationships, right? Like even within polyamory, you have like triads, and you have like V's, and you have open relationships, and you have closed relationships inside of polyamory, right? Like you can be a throuple and be in a closed relationship. Like that's not open, still considered polyamory. So I think there is a lot of learning and language that we need around relationships that are outside of that monogamous structure. So
Okay, so solo poly, let's talk about that for a second.
yeah.
Solo poly, what is the difference between solo poly and I'm just out here dating multiple people?
Honestly, I don't see much, if we're being honest. Like I think that sometimes people practice polyamory without realizing it. I know that when I was, out here dating, and sometimes when I am out here dating, I am like, it's like you meet people, you go on dates, you learn them, you get to know them, like, you see them often or you don't. And that is forming a relationship. These are all forming relationships, right? Now, if you're the type of person who just dates a person and doesn't date anybody else, and then dates another person after they finish dating that person, then you are strictly monogamous, right? But if you date multiple people at a time, that is a polyamorous approach.
It really is. It really is. You're like, what's different? You was out here dating people. Well, that's kind of how dating works. Like, for men, right? Because I'm someone who dates black men. So for
Mm-hmm.
men, this is what I have found. So black men get polyamory and polygyny mixed up,
They do.
right?
Yes,
Because
they do.
they get it mixed up, right? Because polyamory is everybody, regardless of your gender, genitalia, whatever, everybody has the option to be open or to have multiple partners. That's what polyamory is.
Yes.
Polygyny is when the man has the multiple people, particularly women, and then the women are monogamous to him, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so what I
Yes.
have,
That
go
is
ahead,
not necessarily polyamory, right? Like,
right?
and we have to understand that this relationship structure is societal, right? In the places where you find these types of relationship structures, society has often taken or not given women rights at all, right? And so they often have to find husbands in order to start businesses and have land and have property and have access to other resources. So in those spaces, it societally sometimes makes sense, right? And so I don't want people to confuse this that type of relationship structure with what we talk about when we're talking about polyamory. Although that relationship structure does technically fall under polyamory, right? If you find, multiple people who are considered monogamous and they want to be in this relationship with you, knowing that you're in other relationships, that technically is a form of polyamory. But it is not all that polyamory is. And usually in polyamorous spaces, the things that you talk about the most are consent, right? Consent, agency, transparency. How much are we going to talk about what's happening? Do we, like, what are our freedoms, right? Like, what does it look like for us to, draw boundaries around the things that make us feel good or not, right? And then at what point, and this is where people get messed up in a lot of polyamory, people who are practicing, right? Is at what point is it the responsibility of your partner to quell the jealousy, or you know what I mean, the things that are coming up around this polyamorous experience, right? Because that's when I hear men talk about polyamory as, okay, I will be out here doing the thing, but my partners will be monogamous to me. It really does not give agency or voice to the desires of their other partners unless they've explicitly had that conversation and that's what they're comfortable with.
So
But
if you are,
again,
so what would be your advice to a woman who,
well, I think we have to examine the power structures, right? First, we have to examine how power structures and how we show up in these spaces, right? Are these people saying yes to this new relationship structure because they need things from me, or is it because that they really want to genuinely show up in this space, right? That's the first thing. And the second thing is, like, think about what your boundaries are. If you're a person who wants to be polyamorous, is exploring polyamory, like, what are your boundaries? What are the things that make you feel comfortable and make you feel safe, right? Do you, like, what does it look like for you to be, if you're going to have intimate relations with a partner, right? And you guys aren't going to use protection, and they're going to have other partners and you're going to have other partners, are you guys going to be using protection? Like, that's a really great starting point when it comes to addressing sexuality when it comes to polyamory, because sexuality is not the only thing that's here, right? We're talking about romance, we're talking about feelings, we're talking about vulnerability. All of those things come up in these relationships because they're relationships, right? Like, when we have sex with people, when we have intimacy with people, when we have romance with people, all of that is very intimate. It's very vulnerable. And so we have to have conversations about it, right? And we have to be very clear about what our boundaries are and what we're willing to give.
so if there's a woman that wants that, who believes they are non-monogamous, and their partner is like, nah, that don't work for me, because I've had that happen, right? I've had men who be like, I don't know, that's not my thing. What would your advice be to that person? Um, let's say they're already married. So let's say they're already married, and they realize the monogamy thing is not for me. Not, I don't want to say the word convince, because I don't want you to convince anybody something they don't want to do. But how what would your advice be to a couple and particularly one where the woman wants to be open and the man and the husband is like, no.
Well, I think that's it's a conversation that you have with the person who wants to be open, right? Because at the point that your partner has said no, they've said, "Hey, this is a deal breaker for me." It's a deal breaker for them, right? And so you have to decide, is that a deal breaker for you, right? Is monogamy a deal breaker for you? Because your partner is saying, "Hey, look, I don't want to be non-monogamous, right? I'm happy with monogamy. It's serving me." And you're saying, "I'm unhappy with monogamy. It's not serving me and I want to do this." And if they're saying no, then you have a decision to make, right?
Right.
You have to decide, "Hey, am I going to continue down this path of exploration for myself and polyamory alone, knowing that my partner is not coming with me? Or am I going to put those desires and dreams aside because, this relationship and the monogamy is serving me?" Like, that's the.
So I agree with that.
Yeah.
I have found though when it comes to um when it's switched, when the woman wants to be open and the man does it, it's a hard no. Right? No, we ain't doing it. When
Yeah.
it's flipped and the man wants to be open and the woman is no, I have found that more women are doing things they don't want to do. Right? Like you have women who are trying things to keep their
Are
marriages
we
together.
talking about the Save My Marriage threesomes?
Yes,
Save My
those
Relationship
relationships,
threesomes?
because my man's out here cheating, so I'm like, well, I guess I'll try it. Like I know somebody who, I know somebody who their husband was um, open, right,
Mhm.
and they agreed to be open to save or try to save their marriage. Now, he didn't actually save it because you know.
Wait,
Um,
let's back it up. Right, let's take it. This marriage was monogamous when it first started.
yes. So the guy, after they were married, the guy always had these type of desires, but he
Okay.
got married, very traditional, one man, one woman type situation. Once they got married, he realized expressed to his wife, what he wanted to do. This is who I am. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
She was on the fence about it, but then she got on board, for lack of better words, to help save her marriage. But it didn't really save it because they still had issues, and I think eventually they got divorced actually because they got divorced. Um, but right, I often tell people you don't have threesomes or open your marriage up because and I'm not married, right? Never been married, but you don't do that. You don't open your
You
marriage
shouldn't.
unless you want to.
You shouldn't. Here's the thing. Sex is about pleasure, right? It's about enjoying it. And if you're I've had clients and friends tell me about their threesome experiences, and they, like, some of them don't have any like homosexual leanings at all, right?
Hmm.
And so as a queer person, I'm queer, right? I've had several threesomes. I know what a good one is, and I know what a save my relationship one is like, and I don't like those. Those are not fun. Because it's not enjoyable. Like, the no, people are not enjoying it, right? And it's just and if they are enjoying it, they aren't for long, right? Especially afterwards. And so it's not a good space. If When you think about having a threesome with your partner, you're not like, "Oh, yes, I can't wait." Don't do it. If you are on the fence, if you're hesitant, like, "I don't know," don't do it. It's a no. Unless it is an orgasmic yes in your spirit, it's a no. It's a no. It's a no. And that's
Yeah.
for most things, right? Like, I think women too often say yes to things that we want to say and should say, and our bodies are screaming for us to say no to.
Two. Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. So when did you realize that you were non-monogamous?
Oh, honey, early. Um, I want to say in my probably like my late teens, early 20s. We shared a boyfriend in elementary school. Like, it was, I think I've always been polyamorous.
No, we had a boyfriend.
Seriously, there was only two boys in our little like fourth grade classroom, and we shared them. Like they were our boyfriends. You know what I mean? And so
Uh-huh.
that was, I think that was probably like my first introduction. But then in my 20s, I here's the thing. I'm the FBI. Like as a monogamous woman, I am the FBI. I get you and your phone smiling too much. I want to know who you talking to, what you I was. As a monogamous woman, that's how I was, right? And what I realized is that it takes so much energy. And the reason why we do that, why we hover like that, is because we don't trust our partners, or we don't trust ourselves, or we have this like deep repressed desire within ourselves that we want to police in everybody else, right? And when I realized that that's what was happening for me, when I realized like I would rather be, the reason why I'm so upset that this person might be giving out their number or talking to somebody else is because I really want to do that. That's when I was like, oh, okay, well, what does it look like to be honest, right? To just be honest and truthful with my partner about what my desires are. If I'm okay with you being flirty and doing the things, as long as I have the freedom to do that too, then let's see what it looks like. And so I've been in several non-monogamous relationships with people of all genders, and each one of them was different. Each one of them is different, and I've learned a lot. You learn a lot about yourself when you're a polyamorous person and you're honest and truthful about your desires. You wrote,
Yeah, I talk about this in the article that I wrote. So for me, I grew up in a very traditional family, right? We get married to one wife or one husband, and you just cheat behind people's back. That's how I grew up, right? So for a very long time, that's what I believed, or that's what I thought I was, or was that's what I thought. And it wasn't until I was in this dating situation with this guy, and I actually brought up a situation of us doing couple swapping, and he was like, okay, right, and he was very into it in terms of like, I found the couple, on the dating app. I shared him some. I showed him some people that who swiped yes, and he's like, okay, don't like that one, like this one, like that one. Cool. We agreed on that. I went on a date with the guy. He knew about it the whole time. He knew when I came back home. He called. He asked, how was the date? The date was, I explained how the date was, right? And then when it got down to the swap part, like, he was there for the swap part. He was there watching. And you would think that, well, in a very traditional mindset, I would think that, okay, that would make me, I don't know, not maybe want my person, but the sex part with the married guy made me want my man even more, because it was a joint effort. Like, he was into it. He was there from step one all the way down to last step, and I think it helped our sex life. Not that our sex life was bad, but it just made it more interesting and adventurous. And I think it gave us, like, to me, it was a connection for me, and it made me want him even more. That's when I was like, okay, cool, I can do this. Like, I can do this and not lose interest in you.
First of all, actually, that is a great story. And you know what? I think that's a how did it feel weird, like talking to your partner about like potentially having sex with other people? Like, how did that feel for you?
So it was a new experience. So it was new for both of us. So it wasn't weird per se. I think what made it not weird was that he was just as much into it as I was. So he was excited about it. Like, his input. Like, if he was very transparent. Like, if he saw a person, like, because this will be a couple swap. So he had to be into the other couple, the other person's partner for it to work. So, like, if I like the person and he was like, "Well, I don't particularly cheat. She's not my type." Cool. Next person. I wanted it to be a something enjoyable for everybody, right? So it was not weird. What was weird though this part that kind of took me a minute to wrap my head around was having sex in front of him with somebody else. That was it took a minute. Like, okay, like then I had to just focus on what I was doing with the person I was with, and just kind of remove all other distractions. After I did that, it was fine. But in the beginning, that was kind of weird.
I can imagine, right? Especially because like your whole life you've had monogamous sex, right? Like you've had sex in the traditional ways, right?
Yeah.
And so to do that in front of someone with someone new, it just, I know, I get that. So that's a new experience, right? But I love what you said about, like, seeing that he was into it and that he supported it and that he was here for it made you enjoy it even more, because I think that also gave you permission, right? I think sometimes people find themselves in these spaces and then their partners are like, oh nah, I thought I was gonna like this, I don't like this. I'm done. And then that takes the joy out of it for you, right? So seeing that your partner is excited, it's like, yes, this feels good, I'm getting what I want, and my partner is enjoying it. Like, it's a good match. But I think that what starts it all is honesty. And it just starts with you being honest with yourself, right? About what you want. And then saying that out loud. And I think I think that's the hardest part.
So, for someone who think they may be ethical non-monogamy or non-monogamous, um, how can they figure that out? If they think, okay, I think this may be for me, I'm not sure. What are some resources, or is it a good Google search? Like, how can they figure out? Do they just get out there and like, I'm okay, I'm gonna try it? Like, how can they figure out if this is for them or not?
Start with a good Google search. That's where you start, right? Learn the different types of relationship structures that fall under ethical non-monogamy, under non-monogamy in general, right? What sounds good, what resonates with you. And I don't think that one size fits all when it comes to ethical non-monogamous relationships, right? I think that you start with a boundary of like what you want, what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do. And then, you meet people and they kind of test those boundaries. And it's like, ooh, is this a boundary that's real, that's serving me? Is this something new that I need to like explore about myself? And so I think that's the thing. Like, you kind of you have to come in understanding that what you think you want and what you want now may be completely different in the next 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, right? And so come in with an open mind and ready to explore yourself and say what feels good and what doesn't feel good, because the more you hold in, the more you act out, right? And then we start to get jealous and insecure and doing crazy things and reacting poorly because we've held in the thing that we should have let out. Thing is,
Okay.
oh, one more thing. The other thing is, find community,
Okay, good.
right? You need to find other people who are practicing ethical non-monogamy in the ways that you want to, who are just friends, like who you're not interested in, right? Like people who you can just hang out, people who you can talk to, people who you can feel safe around having conversations with. Because when you go from monogamy to polyamory, don't think you're going to be talking to your monogamous friends about your polyamorous relationship, because they're not going to get it, right? They're not going to get it. They're going to give you terrible advice. Like, you need your polyamorous friends. You need community.
Where do you find community?
Events for polyamorous people in your neighborhood, right? Google that. Polyamorous events, polyamorous communities near me. And just show up. I mean, the polyamorous community is very inviting and welcoming because people hate us so much. So welcome to the fold.
Not people hate us so much. So, Reba, where can people find you if people
I
wanted to
am
reach out?
I am online at rebathediva.com, and you can find me and my team teaching pleasure positive sex ed workshops and classes at sexpertconsultants.com.